It was supposed to be a boring shift. I mean, lifeguarding at a community pool doesn't usually come with drama. I sit up in my tower, rotate stations every hour, maybe blow my whistle at some idiot trying backflips off the diving board. That's about it. I'm decent at swimming, certified, responsible, but it's not exactly Baywatch. Most days, it's sunscreen, sunburns, and watching people wait around with pool noodles. I was 2 weeks into the job when he showed up. He walked in like he didn't belong there. Lean, mid-20s, sharp jawline, wearing sunglasses even though we're inside. Definitely not one of the regulars. Most guys who came alone were older gym dads or awkward teenagers trying not to stare at bikini tops. But this guy, he had that energy. Confident. Unbothered. Walked right past the group swim lesson and did a perfect dive into lane 2 without hesitating. I noticed. Everyone noticed. And maybe I paid more attention than I should have. Not for any official reason. Not at first. Just curiosity. He had smooth strokes, strong kick, clearly someone who swam competitively at some point. Every lifeguard scans their zone. I just lingered on mine. I saw him a few more times that week. He always swam laps, always alone, never talked to anyone. I started calling him Lane 2 in my head. One time, I passed him in the locker room and almost said something, but chickened out. Then came Thursday. It was hotter than usual, the pool was crowded, and I was at deep end duty, perched up in the lifeguard chair, sweat clinging under my red t-shirt. I scanned my zone. Lane 1. Lane 2. He was there. He looked off. Slower, less rhythm in his strokes. Something in his form was different, and I felt it before I even knew what I was looking at. He reached the wall, grabbed it, and didn't move. His head tilted weird, like his muscles gave up all at once. Then he went under. I didn't even think, just blew the whistle, hit the water. A blur of adrenaline took over. He was limp when I reached him. Dead weight. I looped my arm around his chest and kicked hard toward the edge. I barely remember yelling for help. Another guard ran in as I pulled him up onto the deck, and then I had to do it. He wasn't breathing. My hands moved automatically. Tilt the head. 2 rescue breaths. Then compressions. My arms locked. My focus narrowed to just his chest under my palms. 1, 2, 3. He jerked suddenly, hard, coughing, sputtering, choking up pool water. He gasped, his eyes flying open, wild and panicked. Then he locked eyes with me, still coughing, still soaked, and I just said the first thing that came to mind. "You're okay. I got you." He stared at me like I was the only thing tethering him to the planet. I remember the way his hand clutched my arm, tight. My shirt was soaked from dragging him out. His skin was warm under my hands, chest rising fast. My heart felt like it was in my throat. The EMTs arrived a minute later. I stepped back while they checked him over, but he kept his eyes on me, even as they loaded him onto a stretcher. One of them asked for his name. He mumbled something. Jason, I think. Then before they wheeled him out, he called over. "You got a name?" he asked. I blinked. "Eli." He nodded. "I'll find you." I figured it was just shock. People say weird stuff when they're pulled back from the edge. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. The next day, the pool desk phone rang. One of the staff girls called me over. "Hey, Eli, there's someone on the line for you. Says his name's Jason." I took the phone, confused. Hello? Hey, it's the guy you brought back to life." His voice was calmer now, a little raspy still, but sure of himself. "You free after your shift?" he asked. "I owe you a coffee, or 10. I laughed. "You don't owe me anything, man." "Too bad," he said. "I'm calling again tomorrow." And he did. The next day. And the one after that. He called again the next day, and the day after that. At first, it was just quick stuff. Hey, how's work?" Or, "You at the pool today?" He kept it light, never pushing too hard. But there was a rhythm to it. Consistent, intentional. I'd never had a guy the first barely knew check in like that, especially not one I'd literally pulled from the bottom of the pool. "I'm not trying to be weird," he said on day 3 when I answered during my lunch break. I've been thinking a lot about that day, about you." I didn't know what to say to that. I think I mumbled something like, "Yeah, it was intense." He chuckled. Intense is one word for it. I wasn't used to being the one someone else was fixated on. I'd had a couple of short-lived things with guys before, mostly apps, mostly fizzling after 2 or 3 dates. I've always been a little reserved, quiet, not shy exactly, but guarded. People don't usually break through unless I let them. And this guy, he wasn't even trying. He was just there, persistent in the softest possible way. By Saturday, I gave in. I just finished my shift, 11 hours on and off the chair, smelling like chlorine, skin tight from dried sunscreen. I was locking up when my phone buzzed again. "Jason," the screen said. I stared at it for a second before picking up. "Eli," he said, like he was genuinely glad I'd answered. "You off work?" "Yeah," I said, my voice low. "Just heading out now." There was a pause. Then, "You feel like getting that coffee I owe you?" I hesitated. My backpack strap dug into my shoulder. "I get it if you don't want to," he added quickly. "No pressure. Just figured if you're free. It doesn't have to be a big thing." There was something in his tone. Not desperate, but hopeful. Honest. "I'm still in my wet trunks," I said. "I'll take that as a yes." We met at a little cafe 2 blocks from the pool. It wasn't fancy, just a place with mismatched chairs and strong espresso, the kind that closes at 8 but never kicks people out. He was already sitting outside when I got there, a paper cup in hand, wearing jeans and a black t-shirt that clung to his chest, just enough to make me hyper-aware of how average I looked in my beat-up Vans and chlorine-faded polo. "Hey," he said, standing when he saw me. He smiled, that same half-cocky, half-sincere look he wore even when he was drowning. "Glad you came." I nodded and sat down across from him. "So, this is your way of saying thank you?" "Partly," he said. "Mostly it's my excuse to see you again." He said it so casually, I almost missed the weight in it. My fingers tightened around the paper cup the barista brought me. "You make a habit of falling for your lifeguards?" I asked, half joking, instantly regretting how that sounded. But Jason just smiled. "You weren't just a lifeguard that day. You were there. That moment, I don't even know how to describe it. One minute I was underwater, and the next I was looking up at you. Everything changed between those 2 seconds. I didn't know how to respond. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Calm. Steady. Like he'd already made peace with something I was still trying to wrap my head around. "Why were you even swimming that hard?" I asked, deflecting a little. "You looked like you were trying to beat a personal record." He glanced away, then back at me. "Stupid, honestly. I used to swim competitively in college. Haven't been in the water seriously in like 5 years. Thought I still had it." "You nearly didn't come back up." "Yeah," he said, softer now. "And then you pulled me out." We sat with that for a moment. I watched people walk past the cafe window, heard the hum of traffic. The world was going on like nothing happened. I was scared, I admitted, surprising myself with how easily it came out. Not in the moment, but afterward. When it hit me, what almost happened. Jason nodded. "Me too." He looked at me for a long beat. "I thought about not calling," he said. "Figured it would be weird. You saved my life, not my heart. But I couldn't stop thinking about you. I kept seeing your face every time I closed my eyes. You were probably concussed," I said dryly, but he didn't laugh. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Do you believe things happen for a reason?" I shrugged. "I try not to. Makes it easier when life's random." "See, I think I was supposed to meet you," he said. "Not that way, maybe. But still." I didn't know what to say to that. I just sipped my coffee. He didn't push. We ended up talking for 2 hours. Not just about the pool, about everything. Music, favorite places to get tacos, the time his sister tried to pierce his ear and botched it. I told him about college, how I never left my hometown, how I'm not even sure if I want to keep lifeguarding after the summer ends. By the time we stood up to leave, it didn't feel like a thank you coffee. It felt like the beginning of something. Jason walked me to my bike. We stood awkwardly beside it for a second. "You ever take days off?" he asked. "Not often." "Well, if you do," he said, "I'd like to see you again." "Without almost dying this time." I smiled. "I'll think about it." He took a small step closer. "Don't think too hard." Then he turned and walked off, hands in his pockets. And yeah, I watched him go. It was a few days before I saw Jason again. Life at the pool carried on, as it always did. The kids splashing, the usual crowd of parents lounging with iced coffees, the constant sound of the diving board creaking under the weight of teenagers doing cannonballs. But even in the midst of the routine, I kept thinking about that coffee. Thinking about him. Jason hadn't called, and I told myself it was for the best. He was just being polite, thanking me for saving his life, and that was it. He wasn't interested in me the way I was starting to feel about him, but every day, there was a tug at the back of my mind. His words echoed in my head. "I couldn't stop thinking about you." It wasn't just some throwaway comment. He meant it. It felt different, more real than the usual compliments people throw around. The phone rang late Friday afternoon. I had just finished my shift and was grabbing my gear from the staff room when I heard it buzz. The number on the screen made my stomach flip. Jason. I hesitated for a second, then picked it up. "Hello? Eli?" His voice was a little breathless, like he'd been running. "Hey, I know it's kind of last minute, but I was wondering if you wanted to hang out tonight." "Tonight?" I repeated, caught off guard. "I mean, I'm done with work, so yeah, guess. What do you have in mind?" "I was thinking we could grab dinner or go for a walk by the lake," he said. "I don't know, something chill." "Sounds good," I said before I could stop myself. "What time?" 7? He suggested, then added, "I promise I won't drown this time." I chuckled. "I'll hold you to that." "I'll be there at 7 sharp," Jason said before hanging up. I stood there for a second, the phone still in my hand. My heart was pounding in my chest, a mix of excitement and anxiety. Was this really happening? Was he just being friendly? Or was there something else behind all this? I went home, took a quick shower, and changed into something more comfortable than the sweaty lifeguard uniform I'd been wearing all day. I put on a simple t-shirt and jeans, nothing fancy. I didn't want to overthink it, even though my mind was racing 100 miles an hour. By the time 7 o'clock rolled around, I was sitting in my living room, the TV on, but my eyes glued to the front door. And then there was a knock. I stood up quickly, feeling a wave of nerves hit me all at once. When I opened the door, Jason was standing there, wearing a hoodie and jeans, looking casual but somehow effortless. He smiled at me, that same half-cocky, half-sincere grin that made me feel like maybe I was being a little too nervous. "Hey," he said, his eyes scanning me for a moment. "You look good." "Thanks," I muttered, rubbing the back of my neck awkwardly. "You too." He stepped in, his presence filling the room in that way people have when they know how to command attention without trying. We didn't really say much as we left, just walked side by side to my car. "So, you're not going to drown on me again, right?" I asked, trying to break the ice as we drove toward the lake. "No promises," he teased, and I could hear the smile in his voice. We got to the lake, and it was beautiful. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and purple. We walked along the shoreline, the air cool with a hint of evening breeze. The walk felt casual, but there was an undeniable tension between us. Not bad tension, but something unspoken, hanging in the air. We talked about anything and everything. Music, movies, life. Jason wasn't like the people I usually talk to. He wasn't afraid to be open, honest, even a little vulnerable. And that made it easier for me to be the same. We talked about how he got into swimming, how he'd moved to the area recently, how he didn't have much family left to lean on, but he was trying to make it on his own. "I like the silence here," he said as we sat on a bench by the water, the lake stretching out before us. It's different from the city. Feels like I can breathe a little more. Yeah, I agreed. It's peaceful. We sat in silence for a while, just looking out at the water, the quiet between us comfortable now. I could feel the heat from the sun fading, replaced by the cool night air, and my mind kept drifting back to the moment we first locked eyes, when I pulled him from the pool. It hadn't just been the CPR. It was the way he looked at me, that desperate, frantic need to hold on, like I was the only thing between him and everything going wrong. I was actually really scared that day, Jason said after a long pause, his voice quiet. Like, I wasn't sure I was going to make it out, but you didn't give up on me. I just did what I was trained for, I said, but it felt wrong to say. It wasn't just training that had made me keep going. It was him, the person in front of me, struggling to stay afloat. It was hard to explain, so I said nothing more. Jason looked over at me, his expression softening. It wasn't just training, Eli. It was you. You could have pulled someone else out, but you didn't. You stayed. That means something. I froze. He was looking at me with something in his eyes I couldn't quite read. It was intense, more serious than before, like we weren't just two people walking by the lake anymore. It felt like something had shifted, like there was more than the casual conversation between us. I started, but I didn't know what to say. He leaned in, just slightly, but it was enough to make my heart race. His hand brushed against mine, a simple, fleeting contact, but it was enough to send a jolt through me. You don't have to say anything, Jason said softly. I'm not trying to rush you. I just want to get to know you more, Eli. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breathing. I wasn't used to this kind of honesty, this kind of connection. Jason was pushing me out of my comfort zone, but in a way that made me want to take the step. Okay, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Let's take it slow. Jason smiled, and for the first time since we'd met, it felt like we were on the same page. Like we were no longer strangers who had shared one strange moment, but two people starting something new, something real. And for once, I didn't mind where it was going. After that night by the lake, things changed. Not all at once, not in some huge dramatic way, but the way I moved through my day felt different. Like I was aware of something new sitting just under the surface. Not quite nervousness, but not calm either, like waiting for something to begin. Jason didn't disappear. If anything, he showed up more. He texted me every morning. Nothing over the top, just little check-ins. Hope your shift isn't too brutal. Or, don't forget sunscreen, hero. Once he sent a selfie of himself eating cereal shirtless, captioned, recovering pool victim in the wild. I never thought I'd smile at my phone that much. At the pool, my coworkers noticed the change in me. Bree, one of the other guards, cornered me at the break table a few days later and smirked. You've been smiling at your phone like a weirdo, she said. You seeing someone? I shrugged. Not really. That's a lie, she said immediately, popping a grape into her mouth. You've got someone's texting me cute things, energy. Spill. It's the guy that first pulled out of the pool last week. She nearly choked. Wait, CPR guy? Yeah. Dude, that's like some Netflix drama level origin story. Tell me he's hot. Yeah, he is. Bree fanned herself with a pool towel. God, the universe never sends me hot, unconscious guys, just creepy dads asking for more chlorine. I laughed, but inside I was still trying to figure out what was happening between Jason and me. We hadn't kissed, we hadn't labeled anything, but the way he talked to me, the consistency, the honesty, it felt more real than anything I'd had before. There was no performative coolness, no chasing, just connection. And maybe the most surprising thing? He didn't seem afraid of showing he cared. One night, he called me while I was walking home from work. I picked up on the third ring. Hey, I said. You sound tired, he replied. Long shift. Some kid puked in the shallow end. Twice. Damn, he said. Hero work. Want me to bring over ice cream? I paused. You don't have to. I know. That's why I want to. 20 minutes later, he showed up at my door with a pint of chocolate fudge brownie and 2 spoons. We sat on my couch, legs crossed, TV playing in the background, talking like we'd known each other for months, not weeks. He told me more about his old swim team, about how he'd burned out by the end of college. He said his relationship with his parents was distant, but not in a tragic way. Just quiet, like phone calls on holidays and texts about tax season. He worked in freelance editing, mostly from home. He liked a structure, but hated being told what to do. "I've always been the guy who gets bored easily," he said, tapping his spoon against the empty container. "But I don't get bored around you." I didn't know how to respond to that. Not because I didn't feel the same. I did. But because it had been so long since anyone had just said something like that to me. So I sat there, watching the flicker of the TV against his face, and tried to let myself just exist in the moment. Jason eventually leaned back against the couch and stretched, his arm grazing mine in that casual but not accidental way he always did. He let it linger there, and I didn't move. "I feel like I should kiss you right now," he said, looking straight ahead. My heart jumped. "Then why haven't you?" He turned to me slowly, his expression somewhere between a smile and a dare. "Because I don't want to mess this up." "You won't," I said quietly. And just like that, he leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't some movie-style dramatic moment. It was soft. Simple, like the natural conclusion to a conversation we'd been having with our eyes for days. When we pulled back, he just looked at me. That quiet look that made me feel like I was seen in a way I hadn't been before. Like nothing about me was too much or too little. Just enough. That night, he stayed until almost midnight. We didn't cross the line, we didn't even cuddle. He just sat beside me, our shoulders pressed together, until he stood up and said, "Same time tomorrow?" I nodded. And sure enough, the next night, he called again, and the night after that. The thing about seeing someone every day, even if it's just a phone call or a quick drop-in, is that you stop noticing when the lines blur. You forget that technically, you're not dating. You stop thinking about whether or not it's too much too soon. You just fall into a rhythm with the person, like you've always had them orbiting your day, and anything less would feel incomplete. That's what happened with Jason and me. We never had the "what are we" talk. It didn't feel urgent. We just kept showing up. For walks, for late-night calls, for sitting quietly beside each other, doing nothing in particular. It was comfortable, but there was something under the surface that I hadn't figured out yet. A weight in the room sometimes. Not between us exactly, but around us. Something neither of us was ready to say out loud. It all came to a head one night when he invited me to his place. "I figured it was my turn," he said, nudging me playfully as we walked up to his apartment. "I've seen your couch. Time to upgrade." His place was nicer than I expected. Small, but clean. Minimalist in a way that didn't feel forced. A few framed art prints on the wall, a shelf of books and vinyl records, plants that were somehow thriving. "You water these?" I asked, gesturing to a leafy monstera in the corner. "Guilty," he said. "Name's Malcolm." "You named your plant?" "Of course. He's my longest relationship." We ordered Thai, sat on his floor eating pad, CU straight out of the takeout containers, our knees almost touching. The way he looked at me across the low coffee table, it made my stomach flip in a way that felt dangerous and good at the same time. After dinner, he put on music, and we ended up on the couch, half watching a movie neither of us were really following. At some point, I leaned against him. Or maybe he leaned into me. It didn't matter. It was mutual. That's when I noticed it. His body tensed, not in a huge way, just a subtle shift in posture. Like something was pulling him backward even as he stayed close. "You good?" I asked quietly. He nodded, but didn't say anything. A few minutes passed. Then, softly, "There's something I should tell you." I looked at him, heart slowing. "Okay." He didn't look back, just kept his eyes on the screen. Before the pool, before I passed out, I'd been going through something. Panic attacks. Heart stuff. I'd been ignoring it for weeks, thinking I could just push through. "Wait, are you—" "I'm okay," he said quickly. "I got checked out. No heart disease, nothing major, just stress, burnout, dehydration. But that day, I pushed too far." He paused. "And I think part of me knew it would happen. I think I wanted to get that close to the edge. I sat in silence, letting that sink in. You think you did it on purpose? Not exactly, he said, but I didn't care enough to stop myself. I felt stuck. Everything in my life felt flat. No highs, no lows, just numb. He finally turned to me. His eyes were raw, honest. And then I woke up, and you were there. And something clicked. Like, he stopped, biting his lip. Like, maybe I still could feel something. The room was quiet, save for the low hum of the soundtrack from the TV. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting to hear that the guy who kept showing up for me had once stopped showing up for himself. And yet, somehow, it made sense. You don't owe me anything, I said, not sure where the words were coming from. You don't have to be okay all the time. He leaned his head back against the couch and let out a breath. Yeah, I don't want you to think I was some unstable mess. I don't. I didn't want to scare you off. You didn't. His eyes flicked over to me again. Then what do you think? I looked at him for a moment. Thought about that day in the water, about all the calls since, about the jokes and the silences and the night by the lake. I think you've been showing up for me more than anyone else ever has, I said. And maybe that means more because I know it wasn't easy. He looked at me for a long time. Then he reached for my hand. Slowly, carefully, like he wasn't sure I'd let him. But I did. We sat there like that for a long time, his thumb grazing the back of my hand, the quiet between us no longer heavy, just full. That night, I didn't sleep over. I left around midnight, kissed him on the cheek by the door, and told him I'd call in the morning. I didn't need to say more than that. He knew I'd be there. Just like I knew he would be. I didn't hear from him for 2 days. At first, I brushed it off. People get busy. Jason worked freelance, and he told me before that some projects took over his entire weekend. I sent a quick, "You alive?" text Sunday morning, added a smiley at the end to keep it casual. No response. Monday passed without a call. Nothing from him on Instagram either, which was weird. He usually posted dumb stories, even if it was just a screenshot of the weather or a picture of his coffee. I kept checking my phone like an idiot, even during lifeguard shifts, which was very against the rules. I even got a warning from my supervisor. Eli, eyes on the water, not your phone. Right, the water. The same place where I'd first pulled him back from whatever edge he'd been dancing on. And now I couldn't help wondering if he was drifting again. And this time, I wasn't there to reach for him. By Tuesday afternoon, I gave up waiting and called. It rang. And rang. Then went to voicemail. I hung up before leaving a message. Tried again an hour later. Nothing. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the phone like it might do something on its own. It didn't. I didn't sleep much. The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I biked to his apartment. I didn't text ahead. I didn't call. I just showed up and buzzed his building. No answer. The glass door was locked. I stood there, wondering if I should try to sneak in, when someone came out walking their dog and held the door open for me without a second glance. His unit was on the 3rd floor. I took the stairs 2 at a time. When I reached his door, I stood there, not sure if I was being dramatic or just worried. I knocked. Nothing. Waited. Knocked again, louder this time. Then I heard it. The soft sound of shuffling inside, bare feet on hardwood. The door opened a crack. Jason stood there, hoodie on, eyes bloodshot. His hair was a mess. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Hey," he said. His voice was quiet. "Didn't expect to see you." I stared at him. "You've been ghosting me." He sighed and opened the door wider. I wasn't trying to. "Jason, you didn't answer anything for 3 days." I stopped myself. I don't know what I thought. He rubbed his face and stepped aside. "Come in." His apartment was darker than usual, blinds mostly closed. The air smelled faintly like old takeout. A few dishes were stacked in the sink. His laptop sat open on the counter. multiple tabs blinking with half-finished documents. I got overwhelmed, he said, sitting down heavily on the couch. Work stuff. Life stuff. I stayed standing, my hands shoved in my jacket pockets. You could have said something. I know, he said, not looking at me. I wanted to, but I also didn't want you to see me like this. Messy, out of it. Jason, I said, voice lower now. I've already seen you at your worst. You think this is worse than me dragging your half-conscious body out of the deep end? He gave a weak laugh. Okay, fair point. I sat down across from him. The silence stretched between us. Not awkward, just thick with all the words we hadn't said. I didn't disappear because of you, he said finally. It wasn't about us. It's just, I get like this sometimes. Everything gets loud in my head, and I shut down. I've been doing it for years. It's not healthy, I know, but I never learned how to do it differently. Then learn, I said quietly, with me. He looked up, surprised. You still want to be around for that? I nodded. You were there for me, even before you really knew me. Now I'm here. This isn't a transaction. It's not about me saving you and you making it up to me with dates and calls. I leaned forward. You don't have to perform around me. Just be, even if that means being a little broken sometimes. His eyes softened. I watched the tension in his shoulders loosen a little. I don't know how to do this, he said. Whatever this is. Good, I said. Neither do I. He smiled. It wasn't his usual smirk. It was smaller, more fragile, but real. I'm sorry for shutting you out, he said. You didn't deserve that. No, I didn't. I agreed. But I'm not going anywhere. He reached across the coffee table and took my hand, held it like it was the only thing anchoring him. I'm really glad you gave me CPR, he said softly. I laughed. I'd rather not make it a habit. Jason leaned back, still holding my hand. No promises, he murmured, teasing again. But I'll try not to drown without you. And this time, I believed him. After that day at his apartment, things settled into something new. We weren't tiptoeing around anymore. Jason didn't vanish. He didn't apologize for the heavy parts of himself either, and I didn't ask him to. It wasn't like some magical fix. There were still moments he went quiet or overworked himself or had a weird, distant look in his eyes when I said something simple like, "How was your day?" But now, he told me. And more than that, he let me stay. The night after our talk, he showed up at the pool. I didn't know he was coming. I was wrapping up a late shift, emptying the trash, wiping down the lifeguard chairs, and I turned around, and there he was, leaning against the fence, arms crossed, hoodie on, just watching me like it was the most normal thing in the world. Told you I wouldn't drown without you, he said. Not yet, I replied, tossing the trash bag into the bin. But the night is young. He stayed with me while I closed up. We didn't talk much, just moved around each other in the soft kind of silence that feels earned. Afterward, we sat by the edge of the pool, feet dangling in the water. The overhead lights reflected off the ripples, throwing tiny fragments of light across his face. I used to swim here, he said quietly. Like, before college. This exact pool. Seriously? Yeah. Summer rec league. I think I was 12 the last time I swam a full lap here. Back then, I thought I was going to be an Olympian. I looked over at him. What changed? He shrugged. I did. Got fast, got competitive, then started hating it. I nodded. I got that. I'd quit soccer for the same reason. At some point, it stops being yours and starts being everyone else's version of you. But now, he said, I think I like it again. Not the competition, just the water. It feels different now. He turned to me. Maybe because of you. I didn't say anything right away. I didn't need to. I just leaned over, pressed my shoulder against his, and let the moment stretch. That was the first time he kissed me in public. Nothing dramatic, just a soft brush of lips and the press of his palm against the side of my neck. Quick. Sure. Like he'd been waiting for it to feel right, and now it did. From that night on, we were together. Still no labels, still no announcements, but my coworkers figured it out. Bree gave me a high five in the staff room and muttered, "New CPR guy had boyfriend energy." Jason didn't try to hide it either. He'd swing by during my lunch break with smoothies, text me jokes about sunscreen brands, leave voice notes of him singing terribly in the car. He wasn't trying to impress me. He was just there. Loud, present, flawed, and still healing. And I didn't realize how much I needed that. One night in mid-August, we went back to the lake where we'd first had that long conversation. It was quiet, the way late summer evenings always are. Like the season knows it's almost done and doesn't want to make a big deal out of it. We brought a blanket, sat on the grass, and watched the sky go pink. Jason was lying on his back, one arm behind his head, the other resting beside mine. "I've been thinking about something," he said. "Yeah? I don't think I want to move away this fall." I turned to look at him. "You were going to move?" He nodded. "I had a job offer in Denver. It was supposed to be a fresh start." I blinked. "And now?" He looked over, eyes locking on mine. "Now, I don't think I need to start over. I think I just needed to start here." I felt my chest tighten. Not in a bad way. Just in that vulnerable way where someone says something real, and you feel your guard drop another few inches without meaning to. "You sure?" I asked. Jason smiled. "I'm not going anywhere, unless you're planning on kicking me back into the pool." I nudged his shoulder. "If I do, I'm not giving you CPR this time." He laughed, then rolled over and kissed me. Slow, unhurried, the kind of kiss that doesn't ask a question or make a promise. It just exists in the moment, and that's enough. We lay there until the sky went dark, until our hands found each other without thinking. And for the first time in a long time, I stopped counting the days left in summer, because it didn't feel like it was ending anymore. It felt like it was just beginning. By September, the pool had closed for the season. I always hated the last week, watching the lifeguard stands get dragged into the storage shed, the smell of chlorine fading from the air, the buzz of summer kids replaced with quiet mornings and empty parking lots. It felt like pressing pause on a version of my life I liked better. But this year, I didn't feel that usual letdown, because Jason was still around. We'd fallen into this easy routine that didn't need planning anymore. Most nights, we ended up at one of our places, watching movies we barely finished, or cooking dinner and making a mess of the kitchen. Some nights we went quiet, me reading while he edited client drafts on his laptop, both of us content to just exist in the same space. He'd gotten better at saying when things felt heavy. I'd gotten better at listening without trying to fix everything. Sometimes he still disappeared for a day. Not physically, but emotionally. I could tell when he was in his head, spiraling or shutting down. The difference now was, he told me. Or at least, he tried. And I didn't push. I didn't try to rescue him from his own brain. I just stayed close, reminded him I was there, and waited for him to reach for me when he was ready. One night in early October, we were in his kitchen. I was cooking pasta, and he was leaning against the counter, scrolling through his phone and occasionally stealing sips from my beer. "Hey," he said suddenly. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." He set the phone down and folded his arms. "Do you ever think about how weird this all is?" I turned from the stove. "This meaning?" "Us," he said. "I drowned. You saved me. And now we're... whatever this is." I smirked. "I mean, yeah, the origin story is a little dramatic. But do you ever wonder what would have happened if you weren't there?" I turned down the heat and walked over to him, resting my hip against the counter beside his. "I try not to," I said honestly, "because you were there, and I was there, and we're both still here." He nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on something behind me like he was trying to piece something together. "I don't think I've ever really told you," he said, "what that moment was like." I stayed quiet, waiting. "When I was under," he said, "it didn't feel like panic. It felt peaceful in this horrible way. Like, oh, so this is it. Okay." But then I came up, and I saw your face, and everything hit me all at once. The fear, the relief, the fact that someone was there for me. He looked over at me then. "You didn't let me go." You didn't wait for me to call for help. You knew. And you didn't hesitate. I swallowed hard. That's what lifeguards are trained to do. Yeah, he said, but I wasn't just another swimmer to you. Not after that. No, I said. You weren't. He stepped closer, slid his hand behind my neck. His fingers were warm, steady. I'm in this, he said, voice low. Not because you saved me, but because you saw me. And that scared the hell out of me. Still kinda does. I leaned into him. Me too. We kissed there, in the kitchen, while the pasta overcooked and the beer went warm on the counter. It wasn't about heat or urgency. It was about presence. The kind of kiss that says, I'm not going anywhere, even when I'm scared. Later that night, we lay in his bed, tangled in sheets, the window cracked just enough to let in the crisp fall air. You ever regret it? He asked softly in the dark. What? Jumping in, giving me CPR, getting involved. I turned my head toward him, reached for his hand under the blanket. Not even once. He exhaled. That slow, steady kind of breath you let out when you know you're safe. Good, he whispered. We fell asleep like that, hand in hand, no more words. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't dream of saving anyone. I just slept. Deep, calm, weightless sleep. Like someone who had finally come up for air and stayed.